Hello and welcome to the Soul Shaking Love podcast. This podcast is dedicated to bringing you the world's expert teachers to help you feel that mind, body, and spirit connection, both with yourself and with your true love. I'm your host, Valerie Green from 𝒘𝐨𝐿 And in this episode, I'm really excited to interview holistic dating coaches, Orna and Matthew Walters. Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, Valerie. It's a pleasure being here.
Yeah.
Likewise. And we were just chatting before the show. Their relationship together really inspires their coaching, and they only coach people together, which I just think is brilliant because then you get both perspectives. And so we're going to really pick their brain because they consider themselves experts in why some people really struggle to find love and why other people have it so easy. There's many iterations thereof. I know for me in my 20s and 30s, it was actually easy for me to attract a high quality partner. But then I fell into all my old patterns from childhood and wound up sabotaging the relationship after a couple of years. So I was the one who had to learn to work on myself. Other people think they have it all figured out. And then when they get into relationships, they attract the same kind of partner again and again who doesn't work. So if you're listening or watching, you might want to identify before you listen or watch this. What happens for you? Is there a pattern that you get caught in again and again? And, have that in mind when you're listening or watching. So before we dive into that topic, I'll tell you a little bit about Orna and Matthew because you might not have heard of them. And they have a book coming out in the beginning of 2025. Orna and Matthew Walters are world-renowned dating coaches. They've been featured in Bravo's The Millionaire Matchmaker, and they created a process that's helped thousands of singles around the globe transform their blocks so that they can attract true love. And the book that is coming out in January of next year is called Getting It Right This Time. Break free from your hidden blocks to lasting love. And so that is, of course, what we'll weave in and out of this topic, how to identify those blocks that we have on the inside, because they really assert, and this is what I'd love to ask them about, that having love is an inside job and it's never too late to find that love of your life. So hello again. And we'll just start out with this big question. Why is it easy for some people to attract a high quality partner for that relationship that is deeply fulfilling? And why do other people keep struggling? Either they can't find someone or they keep attracting the same person again and again with a different face, right? We're all familiar with that.
Well, I think let's start with the idea of attracting people, because actually I think that puts it in the wrong mindset. Because when we say we attract certain people into our lives, it's like we imagine we have like this magnet that's like drawing people towards us. But the truth is that actually we're attracted to certain types of people. And when we think about it that way, we can start taking ownership of that attraction. Instead of saying, well, why do these people show up, as if it's, some bizarre thing that's outside of you, when the truth is it is inside of you, and it is you that is highlighting, say, emotionally unavailable partners, or you that is highlighting, say, addicts, or whatever the issue is in terms of the type of person that keeps showing up. It's you that's attracted to that dynamic. And so when you start looking at it that way, then you've got your perspective in the right direction.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a bitter pill to swallow, right? To look at, oh, I'm actually attracted to these people, but in a way, that's what it means to take responsibility, right?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we're all sort of buy into this ridiculous myth that everything in life worth having, we should, get educated and have a skill set and practice and, do all these things to intentionally create, a career that we love or a body that we love or whatever it is that we want, right? We want wealth, health, and love. And everything in life we're told to get, to sort of work at it, except love. I mean, the most important decision you will ever make is who you're going to share your life with. And most people are thinking about it like buying a lottery ticket. and leaving their love lives to chance. And we know, I mean, everybody listening right now, you don't walk into a room and decide consciously to find somebody attractive, right? It's something that just happens.
Yep.
But the truth is, the people that are highlighted for you is happening through the filter of your subconscious mind, which is the most powerful computer on earth. So your mind is filtering through like 2 million bits of information in every moment. And I'm sure you've had this experience where you walk into a room and some people pop and you start talking to them, and it might not be an attraction like a romance, but maybe it's just a friendly conversation you have with somebody, and suddenly you discover you have all these things in common. That is not just kismet or happenstance. That is the power of your subconscious mind, because it is tasked with keeping you alive. And so however long you've been on planet Earth, your mind says, wow, I'm doing a good job of keeping you alive. So I'm going to keep bringing you similar experiences. And it does that in love as well. So we are attracted to what is familiar.
Yep.
It's so
Good way of
important
putting
to
it.
say it again, because I think this is really the key to that question. Why is it difficult for some people and not others? We learn about love in our family of origin, just like we learn to walk and talk. And we don't want to bag on parents. It's the toughest job there is. But here's the real truth is, when you were a child, long before you knew how the world works, or before you knew who you are or what's possible for you in love, you made decisions about yourself. And from that place, you decided certain things about yourself that limited your ability to create the kind of relationship that you desire. So you could say that there's a core wounding that we call your love imprint. So your love imprint is that core wound. It's made up of your limiting beliefs about love, your mental emotional patterns, and your behavioral strategies for giving and receiving love. And so this is your love imprint at work, because when you walk into that room and suddenly somebody lights you up, bing, 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 that is the familiar signal from your subconscious. And familiar rings the bell. Unfortunately, you don't have the conscious awareness to go, wait a second, if this is that same feeling I've had before, maybe this isn't the feeling that I'm actually looking for.
Right. I know it's so insidious, because on the surface, these characteristics don't show up as, it's the same person I've dated in the past, right? Like, for example, somebody who's emotionally unavailable might show up to your conscious mind as he's really confident. But, to your unconscious mind, and that's the definition of unconscious, you don't know that you don't know it. He's also showing you the mannerisms that he's unavailable emotionally, and he's going to be confidently bravado, like manipulating you, but you only sense that unconsciously. Consciously, you're just like, oh, he's really confident. I really find him attractive, right? I mean, is that kind of what you're saying?
I think that's maybe simplifying it a little bit, but let's say it this way. There's an institute up in Northern California called the Heart Math Institute, MATH, right? And Heart Math Institute, they've looked at the electromagnetic field that extends from our actual heart, and it extends out about 6 to 7 feet around us. And it's one of the reasons why you live near New York City, right? And you ever go into the city and you're walking on those busy sidewalks, do you wonder why everybody doesn't just bump into each other? Right? Because there's so many people and they're walking so fast, and most people aren't paying any attention. We all just weave in and out. We don't hit each other. It's because of this energy field that we have around us. It's like we sense people before we see them. We sense them and we feel them. We actually get to know them before we actually see them and speak to them. And it's understanding that the power of the subconscious mind and the power of this idea of this energy field is that it's recognizing an energetic dynamic before your conscious mind can even acknowledge what's going on here.
Right.
And the truth is, so many people get stuck on a feeling. They're like, well, this person makes me feel a certain way. This must be my person. Well, we don't do anything else that way. It's only in love when we put all of our emphasis on what we call attraction or chemistry or a feeling, and we sort of ignore everything else. We always say attraction and chemistry is required for a relationship, but it's like yeast and bread. it's one ingredient, and it's a small amount, right? We don't
Right.
need
Yeah.
a bunch of yeast and just a little bit of flour. What we need to know is that this person, they have compatible lifestyles with us. They can communicate, especially when, emotions are heated, and that we share values, that
Yep.
we're actually on the same page about what we want from life.
Yep, exactly. And that's something that you can't tell right off the bat. You have to actually get to know somebody. So what do you guys say about those really intense connections that we feel with people, and where people are like, oh my God, it's fireworks. That means I've met my soul connection.
Well, I'll use myself as an example. I was raised in a home filled with abuse, and I was in a relationship in my 20s. I always like to say after I graduated from UCLA with honors, because I know that I'm smart. And I ended up in a relationship with a guy that I thought was going to be the guy. And on New Year's Eve of 1994, he tried to kill me.
Wow.
And I'm only here today because our front door was ajar and the neighbor came in and saved my life.
Oh my God.
So choosing by a feeling can have very high stakes when you grow up in a home with abuse, or if you've had any kind of trauma in your childhood upbringing, because it will still bring you the familiar, that familiar dynamic will still bring you the sensation that you think is the thing you're looking for.
Right.
So after putting my love life on hold for many years, I had a spiritual awakening and I started meditating. And at the end of my meditation practice, I started asking, what do I really want? And the answer came right there in my third eye, LOVE. And I was like, no. I was like, like begging God, please let there be anything else, something else. There's got to be something else I want, because I don't know how to do love. I don't know I don't know how to do this. Like, please let there be something else. And at the time I was working in the film industry, and I was an expert researcher. And so I kind of decided I was going to research about love. It was kind of like my equivalent of like asking for a friend, because I wasn't really ready to admit that that's what I really wanted. And in my research, I found that most people would say, well, lasting love is hard for everyone. And yet nobody had any specific advice for someone like me. And I knew I didn't want to choose wrong again.
Right.
I wanted, because I was drawn to that guy like bees to honey. I mean, he was so intoxicating. So what we found through our work, that this idea, like Matthew said at the very beginning, the first step is recognizing you are not attracting in a particular kind of person. You're filtering the world for a particular kind of person that matches that familiar dynamic. So when you put yourself in the driver's seat of awareness of going, oh, wait, I'm doing this. And so the conscious mind has to come in to say, what is this gap between how I wanted to be loved in my family of origin compared to how I wanted to be loved in my family of origin?
You mean compared to how your parents were capable of loving you?
Oh, sorry. Did I mess that up?
No problem.
You want to clear it up?
It's the wounding story is the
so
gap
cute.
between, like Orna said, how you desire to be loved and your parents' capability of loving you. Right.
Yes,
and it's not your fault that they weren't capable of loving you in the way that you desired to be loved. And yet, as a child, we take full responsibility for that dynamic. We don't have the ability to say, well, gee, mom, this isn't really helpful, right? What I'd really like is if you gave me a hug and told me everything's going to be okay. When we're 4 or 5 years old, we don't have that capacity. Instead,
and we don't know what's missing. We only know what feels familiar.
We just say, what's wrong with me that my parent is behaving this way? What's wrong with me that they're not helping me? What's wrong with me? Right. And we in a weird way, we take full responsibility for their inability to love us the way we desire to be loved. And
it's unfortunate, but everybody does that because it's too scary to think there's something wrong with mom. Then we might die.
Exactly. They're the great authority figures in your lives, right? They can't be flawed. It must be you.
Right.
And so when you say what makes that intense attraction, it is what we call a love imprint match. It's a match to the core wound when you feel that overwhelming, like, oh, wow. I mean, the summer before I met Orna, I ended up dating this woman, and she fit so much of what I was looking for at that time of my life. She was a meditator, she was a yoga teacher, she was a vegan, she grew organic vegetables in her backyard. There was so many things about her lifestyle that were in sync with mine. And she even had dark curly hair, which you can tell like. And so we ended up having one of those crazy 24-hour first dates, which, was always a bad sign. And, part of my wounding story from childhood is, I grew up in a very sort of traditional Midwestern family, 5 kids, Catholic family, right? My parents were married for 57 years before my mother passed. There was no like major trauma like Orna. And yet, being the youngest of 5, I grew up in a dynamic where I love you meant I could tease you and make fun of you. And that was how people communicated in my family. And I interpreted that as there's something wrong with me. And so for me, rejection felt like love. Anytime I felt like, this woman really wasn't that interested in me, it'd be more interesting to me. Right. And anytime I met a woman who's like, wow, you're really great, I really think you're cute, I'd be like, I'd be skeptical. It didn't feel right. It didn't match the dynamic that I was looking for, which was rejection.
That's a good example.
This woman, we had this crazy 24-hour first date. And within like 2 days after that, she's like, I don't know. I don't think this is going to work out. Right. And I'm like, it just drew me in. It just made me more interested in her. And I ended up playing this dance with her all summer of come here, go away, until I finally realized, oh, this is that thing. This is my wounding story playing out. Oh, I don't need to chase rejection. I don't need to change in order to please somebody. I don't need to do all this. I'm actually good the way I am. Right. And it was me taking that stand and saying to her, look, no, I don't need to change in order to be lovable. I'm good the way I am. In fact, I'm going to go find somebody who likes me as I am.
Yeah.
And doing that, I took a stand for myself. And it wasn't long after that then I met Orna, who was like, wow, you're really cute. And I could hear that, and I didn't reject it, right? I didn't argue with her and didn't say, well, wait till you get to know me.
Right. That is a wonderful example. And I want to just make sure everyone knows that we're not blaming parents here either, because, our parents are just playing out the programs that they got from their parents and they got from their parents, right? It's ancestral,
Absolutely.
but it's not the child's fault that they didn't get what they needed. And we don't know that it should have been different because it's our blind spot, so then we're attracted to people that match our, kind of imprint, like you call it. I think that's what you called it, right?
Yeah, your love imprint. Yeah, that's
exactly.
So your love imprint is the phrase that we coined, right, for that experience, because when you're looking to create this change, it isn't like a light switch that's on and off. Like you think about a transformation, it happens over a condensed period of time, right? Like a lemon on a tree. It doesn't go from being like hard and solid green to being soft, ripe, and yellow in a moment. It happens over a condensed period of time.
Right.
So what I want to say is that first step of taking ownership and responsibility of like, oh, I'm attracted to, rather than thinking of it the other way around, is step one.
That is
to really get in that driver's seat, right? When you get in the driver's seat of the car, you haven't gone anywhere yet, but you're sitting in the only spot that allows you to drive the car. And that's what awareness does. So when you have this awareness, because a lot of people spend years and years in therapy understanding why they are the way they are, and knowing the why doesn't actually create the change that you're looking for. Right. I spent a lot of time in therapy from 1994 until I started dating Matthew in 2007, right? That was a long journey for me. And so much of what we do is to really get right into the transformation with our clients so that they don't have to spend years trying to get to that transformation like I did, where I was piecing it together for myself, doing a lot of things that didn't help me on that journey, and sort of taking everything little bit that did help, like at a buffet table, trying to make a full dish to help me in transformation, because something had to shift inside of me. And what we want you all to understand is it isn't about blaming parents, right? Every parent is doing the best they can with what they have. So this is really what we call the human condition, because on some level, most people weren't loved the way they wanted to be loved. And so why is it easy for some people? Why do you look at some people and go, why do you get it, but I don't? Well, they didn't have this big wounding story that set their GPS for love off course for the rest of their life, right? But when you're
Right. Although they have
struggling,
challenges in other areas, you know, because it's like,
absolutely.
We all have,
it's
we all
everyone's
have
got
our own
challenges. I don't
challenges.
Yeah,
want
I always
like,
say
yeah.
it's like the cards that you get dealt, right? When we're born, there's certain
Right.
cards that we're dealt. And so this is how you can really make the best of that hand. If you are still struggling after, say, 30, 35, it's probably time to get a little professional support in really making that transformation happen. Because when you have the inner transformation, your outer world experience changes.
Yeah.
So that inner transformation affects that outer world experience. I mean, we just watched it happen. We had a client come for a VIP day with us, and she said she'd given up. Like, she's been threatening to hire us for like a decade. And she finally, when I reached out to her, I was like, so is now the time? Because you said, you know, maybe some other, and she's like, I've given up. And I was like, oh, okay. And that she's like, nope, I know I never hired you guys, but I've worked with like all these other dating coaches, and I'm not on board. I was like, okay. And then like a week later, she reached back out and she said, I felt so sad after I talked to you, because it was like, hey, you're not going to call again. I was like, I knew you weren't going to call again. Like, you believed me that I'd given up, and I knew I wasn't truthful to myself. So she came for a VIP day. And what was so interesting is when we followed up with her, she said, I got to tell you, I got back to my hotel room and I thought, well, that was a nice day with Orna and Matthew, but I don't think we really changed anything. And suddenly this woman who's single, never married, who really has wanted a great love relationship, she, went online with a little bit of a change with her online profile and that kind of stuff, because we do that. But it was like the icing on the cake at the end of the day. We had some deep inner work with her. And she had this inner change, because she said, I went online. She said, I had immediately 15 guys reaching out to me to connect. She's like, that's never happened. And this woman is in her 60s, okay? She's like, that has never happened in my life. And she met somebody pretty quickly out of the ones that she, met in person. I always say the cream always rises to the top, but her inner shift allowed her outer world experience to change. So this woman who was ready to, who told me, oh, I've given up, I'm done, I've given up on love, I'm just going to do this on my, I have a good life, I have a lot of friends, and I'm happy with my life. She said she'd given up, and yet here she came and did the inner work. And that inner transformation sparked a change within her, because everybody's hidden blocks to love are unique to some degree to them. It's kind of like your fingerprints are unique, because those decisions that you made about yourself when you were a small child in your family of origin, those are decisions that you made. I said it earlier, I'll say it again. You made them before you knew how the world worked, before you knew who you really were. And when you realize that those decisions, those meanings that you assign to those events are actually malleable, that's where the transformation actually happens, when you're working with somebody that can guide you to have that inner shift inside of you.
Exactly.
Matthew and I were in the same room for over a year, once a month, and never talked to each other. Until we did.
Did you notice like
group? And so it was an interesting, I knew who he was and he knew who I was, but you didn't pop until, actually it didn't pop for me until he actually called me and we met one-on-one. He called, I told him I'd get back to him, and I didn't. He called back a week later. I mean, I meant to call him back. Right? He's like, hello, I'd like to do some networking with you. And let me take your number down. I can't schedule that right now. And a week later he called again, like, hey, I was like, oh, okay. So the idea that, there's a lot of sayings that I dislike about love and the myth of love by accident. But I think one of the ones that really plagues me is this idea that, oh, when you know, you know. Because we speak to a lot of people that think they're going to know when they hear the person's voice, or they'll know when they look in their eyes, or they'll know. And it always comes down to this sensation inside. And what I want to ask everybody listening today is to think about the sensation when the thing you think you're looking for. How does it feel in your body? Does it feel grounded? Does it feel stable? Does it feel calm?
Those are really good questions, because I think for most people, they're used to looking for this fireworks or, excitement, this rush of joy, or excitement. And if that's not grounded, or if it doesn't make one feel peaceful inside, then it's that original imprint, right?
Well, all the motivational speakers say that, experientially, fear and excitement feel the same.
Yep.
Right. They're usually saying it to get you to step into your fear and make it excitement. But when it comes to your love imprint, oftentimes that excitement response when you meet somebody is actually a fear response. And it's your mind saying, this is familiar, this is familiar, this is familiar. It doesn't say familiar good or familiar bad. It just is like highlighting familiar, familiar, familiar. And we mistake that signal for excitement, when really what it means is pay attention or run away, right? Or avoid this person because this isn't going to go well. And so we need to slow down.
Right.
We just need to slow down. Everybody's in a rush to find somebody and to get off the app, or to stop dating, to stop. So the first person they feel a sense of excitement and connection with, they go exclusive. And they usually go exclusive with a stranger, because it's usually within 3 to 5 dates that they're like, oh, I'm turning off my profile because I like you. Right. But you don't know.
And because they're tired of the dating game,
Exactly. It's because of what we call dating burnout. And dating burnout happens. It's very simple to understand why dating burnout happens, because everybody's riding a hope disappointment roller coaster. They find a profile and they go, this profile looks very promising. This person looks very promising. It's just a picture and words on a page. And yet they're already investing emotionally into this person. And then they get on the phone and they have a good conversation and they're investing more emotionally in somebody they haven't even met in person. Right? We always say nothing is real. Nothing is real until you meet in person.
Not even those video chats.
Right.
Like, beware of that Zoom chemistry. That's not real. That's your mind filling in the blanks.
Exactly. Why do people get scammed online? Because they invest in a fantasy. Right. They let their desire for love cloud their vision about what's really going on. And that's what, scammers prey on. And so when you get off the hope disappointment roller coaster, because, the disappointment always comes when you invest so much hope in somebody who's a stranger. And instead you just go, let me see. I don't know yet. Let me be curious. I would see how they show up. That's interesting. They showed up this way. Okay, let's see what happens the next day. Right. And we slow things down and we stay present and we stay grounded and we pay attention, not only to the other person, but to ourselves, to our own feelings and to our own strategies. Are we trying to get this person to like us, right? Or we call it twisting into a pretzel. What shape can I take to get you to like me, without even realizing whether this is somebody who's worthy of being in a relationship in?
The thing about the dating apps is people are screening through those profiles as if they're going to find the right person in a profile, and you won't. So just let that go altogether. A dating app is a tool for getting dates in real life.
Exactly.
And so we spoke with a young woman just a few weeks ago, and she said, well, I went on 18 first dates last year. And I said, do you think that's a lot? She said, well, it's a lot for me. And we said, well, if you're really looking for a life partner, you should be going on 2 to 3 dates a week. And people get so dismayed. Like, I see their faces like, what do you mean 2 to 3 dates a week? You wouldn't... excuse me, you wouldn't, if you're looking for a job, you wouldn't go, wow, this is my job, and stop, only submit your resume to one place and put all your hope into getting this one job in the job interview. When you walk in and there's like 150 other people standing in line, to have their 5-10 minute meeting or whatever. So think about it the same way. If you're looking for a life partner, somebody you're going to share your life with, you should put as much energy in that as if it was at least a part-time job, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a full-time relationship.
Exactly.
So,
I think that's a really good analogy.
I always say it like this. You want to stop guarding your time as an excuse for guarding your heart. Heart should be open to meet somebody. But if you're looking for somebody to fulfill something that's missing inside of you, ooh, that's dangerous. That is really dangerous. So be happy. Make sure your life is full. When you go out on a first date, have somewhere to go after. You don't spend a 24-hour first date with somebody. Don't spend a 3-hour first date with somebody. A first meet for us with our clients, we don't even count that as date number 1. That's 0. That's meeting them in person. That's number 0 on the scale of first
coffee,
date.
that's a quick cocktail, right?
It's 60 minutes, 90 minutes maximum. Like there's this thing about it's so like hot and kind of sexy to leave somebody wanting more. So that's why I say make plans. Don't say you have plans. Really make plans after you're going to go meet somebody, especially if you're the kind of person that tends to futurize and leap into the future by seeing their picture, right? Have somewhere to go afterwards, because leaving somebody wanting more is a good thing to do with a stranger, right?
No, exactly.
So you slow yourself down. You set yourself up to slow things down. So you're not investing your heart, but your heart is open and you get to experience that person for who they really are. I mean, Matthew and I went slowly in the beginning. We met through a business networking group. So we didn't know it was going to be a personal connection of a relationship. I mean, we sat there talking at this first breakfast meeting about all kinds of other things. There was definitely a spark, but it came from a business connection. So it wasn't supposed to be like a personal thing. Although both of us had been doing a lot of dating, a lot. I dated more the summer before Matthew and I started dating. I'd never had that many dates in my entire life. Like I knew I was ready and I was showing up everywhere because our whole system is about people showing up authentically and really letting your freak flag fly so that your beloved can find. Because we don't love somebody when they appear perfect, right? I mean, we love somebody. We love like their little quirks and their little, I don't know, their crooked smile or their silly laugh or these little quirky things that we do. Those are the things we love about another person. And yet we're so hard on ourselves, thinking we have to somehow be perfect and somehow earn love. And we go about a relationship thinking like, oh, I have to go without something. Like if you think that you have to go without something you prize and value in order to have a relationship, you're stuck.
Right. And that's from one's original imprint.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and that's such a wonderful first advice for how to take it slow and how to have that first meeting of date 0. So what are all the other kind of major milestones that you lead people through the process of creating them?
Well, we say don't even invest anything in the person until at least 5 or 6 dates, right? Because after 5 or 6 dates, now you've got a sense to know who this person is. They are who they say they are. They show up consistently, right? Their behavior is clear about who they are and all that. And then, even then, you're maybe not even ready to go exclusive yet. You're still discovering about them and you're still discovering about yourself and how you're showing up. And it really is, we call it slow love, right? Because slow love gives you time to see, let's talk about values, for instance. When you say, well, we want to value the same things, but you can't have a conversation about values. You can't ask somebody, do you value honesty? He's going to say, no, I don't value honesty. I just lied to you 5 minutes ago, right? The irony is they're being honest with you. So it's not something you can have a conversation about. We had a client who was, she was dating this guy, and he would have these hypothetical scenarios that he would present to her. Say this happens and then this happens. How would you behave? As if that would reveal to him the kind of person she was, right? And in some way we're all doing some version of that, and we're filling in the blanks because we want this person to be the person that we need them to be, right? And so
we think that we can shorten the process by asking those questions.
Exactly.
And I mean, obviously you can find out somebody's values by asking questions, but not the red flags. The red flags, you have to observe over time how they behave.
Anybody's values, you can't find that out from talking with them. I mean, you find out what somebody values by paying attention to where they spend their resources, right? Their time, their energy, their money. I mean, the guy who's washing his car every Sunday, waxing his own car, he values that car because he's
It's true. I think you can really only Make sure that somebody prioritizes those values over time, over months of observing the person. I think you can tell someone's values early on if you ask deep questions. Like my husband asked me, I think on our second date, what makes you sad? And I started crying, and I actually talked about how I knew that I was here to make a big difference in the world. And I love helping people discover their true calling and their true authenticity. And this was like, I mean, we met 9 years ago. So now I actually do feel like I'm at the place that I wanted to be then. But I was crying then because I didn't feel like I was as effective as I wanted to be and really helping others. And so that shows a lot of my values right there. But it's because he asked me that deep question. But that doesn't show, unless he's dating me for months, how dedicated I am to living my purpose, what my blocks are, how much of a self-starter I am, if I'm taking responsibility, if I value integrity and consistency, or if I'm just crying because I'm a victim, right? So you don't know that until you really spend a few months vetting the person to see if they're actually living true to their values. But I personally think you can ask deeper questions. Not, are you honest? You can't ask that, but you can ask deeper questions on a first and second date to find out what somebody's values are. But that doesn't mean that they're actually living in integrity with them. That you can only find out over time.
Well, the thing about it is that we discover, I mean, some people can value the same thing, but the way it doesn't work the same way. Like we had a client that valued partnership, but her vision of partnership was very different from this guy that she was dating and what he believed was partnership.
Exactly.
But more importantly, when we like somebody, our minds are always filling in the blanks because our minds are meaning-making machines. And so we are making things up. And in the beginning of the relationship, when all those feel-good emotions are flowing, we're slanting things and filling in the blanks, and we're slanting things towards the positive. And as time wears on, we tend to slant things towards the negative. And so really the goal is to discover what's true, right? And be curious about the other person. So it isn't about a questionnaire like a job interview. Right? It's more about discovering why they're showing up that way. Like we have a client who was in her late 50s, never married, very worldly. Like she was Indian, but she grew up in Hong Kong and she was living in London. She ran her own business. I mean, she was just like a badass. She was a really powerful woman. And she started dating this guy, and she's now married to him. But when they started dating, he would talk to her about having seen his dad, who was in a home not far from where she lived in the city in London, where he lived in the suburbs. He lived outside of London. And so in the beginning of their dating, she said to us, I think it's convenient for him to take me out because he sees his dad and then he comes and takes me out on a date. And what she found out over time was it was the other way around. He was actually visiting his dad more often because he was dating her and would plan the time to go see his dad first and then take her out on a date. So you don't discover that until you start spending more time with somebody. So it's best, instead of running with these, the things you're making up in your head and filling in the blanks, is to just be curious and to slow the dating process down instead of rushing to that exclusivity. I mean, the news is all over the place this week about the Golden Bachelor, right? It was the first season of the Golden Bachelor, and they got married on TV. And here it is, 3 months later, they're filing for divorce and they're split. And it's a heightened experience to have a relationship on live TV. I mean, we know that. I mean, let's face it, most of us aren't in these situations, but the rush to do that for them, they said, well, we're in our 70s and there's no time to waste. But they're dating like teenagers. There's no difference the way they rushed in than kids, and they're, that are teenagers that are 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, right? Or when we're in our 20s or 30s. There is no rush. If you're spending, I don't care how much time you have left, that decision is so important to slow it down, not just about getting married, but also about exclusivity and limiting your choices. Because when you leave your choices open for a longer period of time, you can discover more about yourself, which is where the discovery needs to be in the early part of the dating process.
What I think is really interesting, I want to go back to your second date with your now husband, right? And the question he asked you and your response. Because yes, it did reveal something about your values, but I think it revealed something else that's actually more important, is it revealed your ability to be authentic in the moment, to express how you were feeling at that moment, right? So many people are guarding their heart early on in the dating process. They're like, I'm not gonna reveal anything. I'm gonna wait and see. I'm not gonna trust anybody, right? We think that the need to be authentic or the need to be vulnerable requires that the other person is somehow this safe space in which we can do that. But the truth is, you have more power in your authenticity, you have more power in your vulnerability than you do when you're trying to protect it and guard it and hide it. And it also goes around to this idea that there are certain things we shouldn't talk about early on in the dating process. I think that's ridiculous. And on our very first date, we both discovered that neither one of us wanted to have children, right? And that was it was revealing about our values, but it was also revealing because we were comfortable enough with ourselves to just have the conversation, right? To just ask the question. I mean, Orna was going on and on about her friend who just had a baby, and then she told me like 5 stories about her nieces that she loves so much, and I'm like, this woman's talking a lot about children. I wonder if she wants children, right? And so I asked her because I was curious. I'm like, well, how do you feel about having children? And then she threw the question back to me, which was very funny. She's like, I don't know, well, what about you? And I got real, I'm like, because I didn't know, I didn't quite want to answer that yet. And then she goes, I don't want any. And I just said, oh, thank God. So we were both, it was kind of fun and interesting about that conversation.
But we were both authentic.
But we were both authentic, right? And that's what we really emphasize in people about how they show up in the dating process. It's just be authentic. Talk about what you want. Talk about what's important to you. Don't use it as an opportunity for a job interview with the other person, right? Well, do you fit my criteria?
It's not a checklist.
It's not a checklist.
But you could talk about anything as long as it's organically coming from the conversation you're having. And I think that's what's important, because I think a lot of times people get confused about what being authentic is. And so for us, we really made it, we defined it for the dating process. Being authentic is identifying how you feel and telling the other person. Because what you're looking for is an emotional connection. And I think, Matthew, you're so perceptive. Like, I think, Valerie, it's so interesting because I do think what was so sweet about you, he said, what makes you sad? And you didn't just describe it. You actually got sad about something and shared, and were incredibly vulnerable and completely authentic about not where you are in the present moment 9 years ago, but also who you wanted to be. And so it said more about who you are as a person, I think, more than about specific values that are important, right? And so I think that when we are authentic, when we take that risk, we are rewarded. And sometimes we're rewarded by knowing that's not the right person. I mean, I remember being on a date with this guy who at some point like leaps out of his chair and he's like, well, there's this art thing down the street. We're at this little coffee house. He's like, well, there's this art thing down the street. This is going so well. Do you want to go with me down the street? And I like clung to the armrests and I was like, no, I never want to. And I feel badly because I was still learning to be authentic. I didn't mean to be rude. I mean, I'm not asking anybody to be rude, but I was so horrified that he wanted to go to another location with me when I was like, no.
He was obviously not picking up on your signals.
Yeah, I mean, it was, it was just one of those things where I knew that wasn't the kind of person that wasn't going to be my person.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I worked in the entertainment industry a long time, and everybody I met when dating, when I was single, all worked in the entertainment industry, and I didn't want that snarky banter about the lifestyle, whatever. I knew I didn't want that, so I was like, no. I feel bad looking back. He seemed like a very nice person. I hope he's very happy in his life now. But I think that risk, that thing that you want to like hide and cover up, like be authentic, like again, let your freak flag fly, because we truly believe there's a lid for every pot.
Yep.
Right? There's a lid for every pot, but you have to show up as your real authentic self so that the people who aren't the match for you deselect themselves, and the people that are interested in you, even with your little quirks and stuff, they'll continue to want to spend time with you and get to know you.
Exactly. Yeah. And I know that you have a process that you are going to outline in your upcoming book for how to develop, your own inner skills that you need in order to not be looking for that love on the outside only, right? And how to be authentic. So do you want to talk a little bit about the book that you have coming out in
Sure.
January
It's
of
really broken
2025?
down into 3 parts, right? And the first part we've been talking about a lot today, which is awareness. Awareness of your wounds, awareness of your patterns, awareness of your limiting beliefs, awareness of your strategies that aren't serving you. Coming into that seat of awareness puts you in the seat of power. I think oftentimes people are afraid to look at those things because they feel bad. They carry shame about those things. But the truth is, even your ability to look at your shame and just acknowledge it and say, wow, I feel shame about this, puts you in the seat of power to be able to do something about it, as opposed to
exactly.
hide it.
It's the
right?
first step. And then,
The
of course,
first
you can
step,
do deeper
right,
work to
is
transform it.
awareness
Yes.
and owning it and really getting clear on what it is. The next step is what we call transformation.
That's the second section of the book.
Right. And transformation is all about how do you begin to take this story of awareness and what you've discovered about yourself, and how do you transform those stories? How do you heal them? And we have a lot of processes that we lead people through in the book.
There's a lot of exercises at the end of every chapter. And so that is really sort of your guide for yourself, because you are your own authority. And I think that people don't know how to do that. And we literally walk them through the steps of really trusting themselves and growing and building their self-esteem and self-confidence from the inside out. And so there might be some things that feel a little outside your comfort zone. And the way we set them up is you almost feel like you have a safety net, because we give that to you in the book as we build through all of these transformative processes. I always think it's interesting because for our work, we don't work on dating at the beginning, right? We start differently with our clients. And so the dating processes that we give in the book are actually in part 3, which is the manifestation section. So in manifestation is where you start dating in a very specific way, because the cream always does rise to the top. And so it might sound counterintuitive, but when you slow the dating process down, it actually speeds up the time it takes for you to connect with your beloved, with your soulmate.
Right, because you don't waste time with the wrong person.
Yeah, exactly. Because otherwise, if you commit too early, you end up having these short-term relationships. They're 3 months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, whatever, and then they don't work. And then you're on that hope, disappointment roller coaster again. Exactly. And so you can save a lot of time by, instead of going exclusive and rushing to that exclusivity, embracing slow love. And we give you a lot of these other tools in manifestation, not just through the dating process, but also to get your mindset so you have a clear vision to match whoever you're dating up against, so that your vision is clear first. A lot of times when we ask people at the very beginning, what are you looking for? It's oftentimes the opposite of what they don't want, right? And we don't create anything like that in life, right? We don't go, oh gosh, I didn't get a raise, I'm going to quit and look for a job where I never have to ask for a raise again, right? We don't do that. Instead, what you really want doesn't come from the opposite of what you don't want. So in order to manifest something, you have to have that clear vision. So we walk you through creating your vision of your true soul partnership. I mean, we talk a lot about soulmates. Soulmates aren't destined. Soulmates are the person that get you, and you don't have to scour the earth for one person who's your soulmate. You can have multiple soulmates. Even some soulmates even have tails. I definitely had a
yeah. I mean,
somebody who chooses you that you also choose, and you have a commitment to see things through, because sharing your life with somebody, sometimes life throws you curveballs, just like life throws you curveballs when you're single. And so really making that decision about who you want to share your life with, so you have longevity. And when there's conflict, you know how to get back on the same page, because you will have conflict and misunderstandings, and oh my gosh, you'll have a fight with your beloved. I promise you.
Exactly. I know it's
to think that you'll never have problems, and you will, but you'll find that they're few and far between, because when you're with the right person, when you're with somebody who wants to stick it out with you, your joy is actually doubled and your sorrows are cut in half. And that's what's so great about sharing your life with a beloved.
Right, exactly. And then you get to, as Dan Tatkin puts it, learn the owner's manual on each other, which is like really developing that deep intimacy where you know how that person ticks, and, you can keep growing closer as time goes on, which can only happen when you've done that process of slowing down the getting to know you process to make sure you're actually compatible. And, you know, I think that people have different beliefs about soulmates. I interviewed Ariel Ford, you know, who talks about soulmates, but her definition, I think, is similar to yours. That it's not like, ooh, we're going to have this instant chemistry. Like, that's probably your wounding. That a true soulmate love is somebody who's willing to have that deep soul connection with you, which means, I mean, in her definition, and I know many people's, that your true authenticity, that you could really be yourself, and they really want, you know, you have this shared vision and mission and purpose and legacy together, which is part of your soul's purpose, which you only know by getting to know somebody over time. You can't know that by this instant chemistry. So I love what you guys are saying. So regardless of people's beliefs about soulmates or compatibility, I think everybody can benefit from slowing it down, really going through this process of getting to know somebody over time to see if they really can accept your deep authenticity, or if they're just looking to play games, which you can't know when you first meet somebody.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you shared so many gems and sound bites. People might want to watch this interview a couple of times and to really take it in. And then I know you have a free gift, which is a little taste of what people will get through reading your book, which they'll have to wait for, unless what I'll do is your book will be released next year, the Getting It Right This Time. And so January 2025, but this interview will still be live then. So if you're watching it after January 2025, I'll put the link to their book below this video or in the show notes of the audio. But if you're watching this or listening to this before January 2025, then you guys have a free gift. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, we have a free download called 7 Steps to Soulmating, which kind of generally walks you through this process that we've been talking about, right? It sort of breaks it down into very actionable steps along the way.
Yeah, if you want to share your life with a beloved life partner and you're tired of that, you know, different face, but same kind of person syndrome, and you want to break that pattern for good, it's the best place to start is those 7 steps. So you can download the 7 Steps to Soulmating, and it'll just give you a little bit of a preview of what we go in depth into in the book, Getting It Right This Time, Break Free from Your Hidden Blocks to Lasting Love.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and I'm sure that if people get the free gift, then they'll get on a list to be notified when the book is actually published. So, you know, they'll really get in your world and learn about this deeper process of discovering who you really are and your authenticity and what is true compatibility with the person that is going to be a good match for you. And I love how both of you demonstrate that in your connection. You can just tell how close you are and how much you accept each other, and you know, you're not interrupting each other, you're really adding to each other. And I think that you're a good example of what it really means to have that life partnership. So thank you.
You're sweet. Thank you. And I always say, like, we spend a lot of time together. We spend almost 24/7, 365 together, which is not for everybody. So we always say our relationship should be stand for professionals only. Please don't try this at home. Your soul partnership can look however you want it to look. And that's that inner journey, is really discovering, like, if you can really have whatever you want in this special romantic relationship that has that longevity. What does that look like? What is the dynamic? It's so important for you to know how it functions. And Matthew and I, as individual people, really envisioned a life with a partner that spilled over that professional life and personal life. You know, there wasn't a clear boundary. And so we both really wanted this. We didn't know that it was going to show up this way, but that's what happened. We ended up working together and building our community together and really being of service this way. And it's kind of funny because all of our clients at some point go, well, you guys could do this and you could do this. And they're always giving us all these other ideas that we could do. We kind of laugh because this is our passion, is helping singles really break through those hidden blocks to love. Because for us, it was so important. So this is our life's work. I mean, we've been going strong, 15 years now, and we'll continue. So we're here to really help you because we understand that struggle. We understand how you're like, why do I end up here again? Why this person again? And all of those why questions. So get you out of the why and into having that great relationship.
Exactly. And I think you're both great examples of, you know, your original imprint. They were so different, but for both of you, it didn't allow you to be authentic. And that you were both able to identify and transform that in order to play this long game with each other, where you discovered how to be authentic and accept each other's, you know, freak flag, so to speak, and really recognize that you ultimately wanted the same things, and that took time. And you know, I think that those are the main things that you teach, and you live it in your own lives too. So it's so inspiring.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and so I encourage everybody to download their free gift, the 7 Steps to Soulmating. And if it's January 2025 or later, then I will get your book to you, because it sounds really exciting. You know, it seems so nourishing. I love reading books like that. I pride myself on reading most other people's books so that I can know what I'm saying different. You know, I can discover where my, you know, what's missing or where the integration is. So yours sounds really rich and deep. So I look forward to reading it. And I encourage everybody to just take this advice of really allowing yourself to be authentic and not settling out of, you know, we think that, oh, maybe I have to settle for this person because I can't find anyone else. That's part of our original blueprint, you know, our imprint, like you say, you know, so to really do the work to uncover that and transform it so that you can discover who's actually right for you, because you only need one person. And, you know, I have a lot of people that tell me, well, I'm so picky and I match with most people. And it's like, well, you only need one, as long as you're willing to do the inner work, you know. So that's the thought that I want to leave people
You only
with.
need one. Something's wrong if you're matching with a lot of people. Then
that's what I'm saying.
Criteria is not picky enough. You should be picky. I mean, you're going to share your life with that person.
Exactly.
All my friends told me I was picky. You know, I remember at
oh my
our
God,
wedding,
me too.
my matron of honor, she was so funny. She's like, I met Orna, and she had this long list, and I thought, good luck with that. She's like,
right.
Got everything.
I mean, I think it depends on, you know, if your list has superficial versus deep criteria on it, you know, which I'm sure you guys help people identify as well. So it's all about ultimately being authentic. And, you know, I love that there's so many people that teach that. And so it's just been a joy to talk to you. And I hope that everybody checks out their work, Orna and Matthew Walters. And, you know, I just really feel inspired after this. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise. And I hope everybody just has a day where they feel inspired that true love is out there if you're really willing to do the work. So until next time.